Hey there, it's Naphtali, and I am so excited. This is the fourth and final Delegate to Accelerate mini lesson. This one is number 4. And in this one, we are going to focus again on how, like we did the last time. But instead of focusing on the planning piece of it, it's now going to be a focus on empower and monitor. And this is a special day because in addition to sharing some additional content with you, the next phase, if you will, in the delegation process, today is the day that everything goes live. So I'm delighted, excited. Really, I don't have words to share because I've just been working at this for a while, obviously been working on teaching others how to delegate for a long time, but putting this together in such a way that's going to create such value and such an opportunity for so many of us to get together, have conversation about delegation, really take our processes to the next level so that we could do the kind of work that's going to transform our business. Um, I'm just super excited about it. And so thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here. I certainly would love to hear what it is that you think about everything that's been shared so far, questions that you have, comments you'd like to add. Let's make this an engaging final presentation. So again, a little bit about me. For those of you who may not have caught some of the previous recordings, I am an executive coach, and most leaders struggle to manage their workloads and get home at a decent hour. I help them delegate and be more productive so that they can scale profits with less stress. So it's about finding the work that I or we as leaders need to specifically be doing, managing our workloads accordingly, finding others who could help us to do some of the other work so that we could be productive, they could be productive, build engagement, build empowerment, scale profits, and reduce stress, and still get home at a decent hour to spend quality time with family and friends. So lots and lots to unpack as we move into this final piece of the process. But before we do, a brief recap of what we have talked about in mini lessons 1, 2, and 3. We began with the importance of delegation as well as its definition, what it is and what it isn't. We started to discuss when one should be delegating and what are the kinds of tasks one should keep to or for oneself as a leader. Number 3, who to delegate to and who not to delegate to, and of course, how to properly train them, how to get them ready. That's number 4, so they can, in fact, engage in delegation properly. And then the last one, delegate to accelerate, number 3, we talked about the planning process. So in this presentation, we're going to move from planning to empowering and monitoring. So look again at the cycle that you have in front of you, beginning in the center at the top. Once we have chosen an appropriate task as well as have the right person in mind, then we begin the process of setting a clear plan of what needs to happen. And then it's all about implementation and monitoring. So I call it empowering. In the image, it's referred to as implementing, but it's the same basic idea. It's moving things from plan into action, and that involves empowering people. That involves moving their processes forward, setting goals, being clear on those goals, and monitoring to ensure that the right work is being done. And of course, we have to talk about what happens when that is not the case. But we'll get there in due time. So here's a map for where we want to go. The last piece, which is evaluate or review, that purple one, at approximately, let's call it 10 o'clock on the clock, if that's what you want to think of it as. That one we're not going to really get into, but as you can imagine, it is important to evaluate the success of the delegation process, as well as what worked and what didn't, and celebrate, where appropriate, the successes that occurred. So for our purposes, let's talk about authority. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Now, I'll go much deeper in the masterclass that I want to share with you a little bit later. But for now, understand that when you ask somebody to do something, especially if they're acting on your behalf, let's say, or as your representative, they need to be empowered. They need to have authority. You have that authority as a leader, but they may not necessarily have the authority. So that has to be granted to them, whether it's a title, whether it's a memo to staff, not faculty, a staff meeting, a team meeting, letting people know that you are empowering someone to do something in particular, giving them the tools, the resources, and the backing. Because when people know that the leader is backing this individual, it gives him or her so much more credibility and allows that person to do their job with confidence, be able to ask things of people without too much pushback, hopefully none at all, and and not resentment either. So giving them authority is a critical piece and certainly the first step in empowerment. The next piece, and this probably, in some ways, you could argue that this comes before, but it doesn't really matter where you place it. The most important thing is that trust is critical. If I want somebody to do the work, I have to be able to trust that they're going to do it and do it properly. You know, it's the linchpin. It's what holds everything together. And if you don't have trust, nothing else is going to work. So you've got to believe in your people and you've got to empower them. Now, it's all nice and good to say that we want to trust our people, but what exactly is trust? How do we develop it? What does it look like? So one model I'd like to share with you, in fact, the only one I'm going to share with you in this recording, but I think it covers so many pieces related to trust, is the ABCD trust model popularized by Ken Blanchard. And that's this model over here. So ABCD stands for able, believable, connected, and dependable. And we've talked about some of these criteria before in an earlier recording. I believe the one we had talked about was able at the time. Did the person have competence, or does the person have competence? And obviously, if they don't, we have to ask ourselves, how do we help them develop it? Or if not, obviously not choose them in the first place. Believable, connected, and dependable are three other pieces. Believable is about acting with integrity, that they can be trusted to keep confidences, that they're open and honest, that they don't talk behind people's back. In general, these are good qualities to possess and integral components of being a good team member and a good leader. But as it relates to trust for delegation, I think we want to focus primarily on able and then dependable. Do they know how to do the work? Are they capable? And also, are they reliable? Will they actually get it done? So if a person is able and dependable, in most cases for our purposes, that is enough to establish trust and to maintain levels of trust necessary for the leader to really, let's call it, invest in this person and make them the representative, the delegatee, to get things done. You want to help these people also recognize the value, if they don't already, about B and C. B and C, to me, are more about what we might call human skills or soft skills. It's less about the technical skills of knowing how to do the work and even the follow through. It's about the connection that we have. People feel that I can believe you. People feel like connected with you. That's going to help. And certainly, if this person has technical skills but doesn't have the human skills, the emotional intelligence, this kind of thing, help them understand the importance of it, because they need to realize that if they don't demonstrate it, they're not going to get the kind of cooperation and support that they need to do the job most effectively. So all of these are important, but again, for our purposes, able and dependable are the most important, because it demonstrates that a person has the skills as well as can be trusted to get the work done, do so in an organized way, in a responsive kind of way, and won't require the leader to have to jump in as often to oversee things and see how things are going. Now, another piece here is, we all recognize that no matter what it is that you do on the training side and how capable and competent the other individual is, there are going to be times where they need our help. And we as leaders need to be willing to jump in on occasion to assist, not to take over, not to helicopter in and just assume control. So often that happens, and that is a huge mistake. resist the temptation to jump in and take over, because you will lose trust like nobody's business. Nobody's going to want to do these kinds of things for you because you're undermining the very relationship that you're looking to create. However, if you come in with an attitude of assistance, a willingness to offer support, how can I help you? It seems like you're struggling over here. What can I do to assist you? And you provide it from that perspective, and you give your time so that people, the other individual or individuals, know that they can turn to you for guidance, support, etc. along the way. That'll make things a lot easier, smoother, create the kind of relationship that people are looking for, and they more willingly will take on responsibility for you because they know they can trust and rely on you for help as needed. So to briefly review, we talked about empowering the other person. We talked about being willing to trust them, to think about, do they have the key qualities, in particular, the ability and the dependability to get the job done? And then stepping in as appropriate to assist, but doing so from a standpoint of wanting to be helpful rather than want to reclaim the responsibility and the authority. The next phase is to monitor progress. So as things are moving forward, check in, hopefully what you've done at the beginning in the planning stage. We mentioned this very briefly, the idea that you want to have certain timetables and benchmarks in place. And this is very helpful because it creates a natural feel to the process. If we state from the beginning that every, let's say, week on Mondays at 10 o'clock, we're going to have a meeting to connect on the project and see how things are going, and you're going to send me a report the Friday before that I could review it over the weekend, something like this, that it's just like the natural outgrowth of how we set things up, not because I'm going to be looking over your shoulder, not because I see a problem, but just this is how it was set up. Then that's the most natural way, and of course it's going to create the greatest result. But either way, even if you didn't do that, staying on top of it, monitoring, asking how things are going, asking for some feedback, asking for some reports or other things that would be evidence, let's call it, of progress. That is, it's helpful to you because you as the leader need to know what's going on. You need to know, are things going correctly, etc. And the other individual wants to be able to share that feedback as well. As much as they may want to be left alone on some level, they also want to know that the leader cares. They didn't just dump it on me, but he or she really cares that I'm doing it right and is willing to support me in the process. So the very next step after empowering and trusting and offering assistance where appropriate is monitoring progress to make sure that things are not getting off the rails, they're progressing according to plan, and that if there's any help needed, as we talked about before, offering or having the ability to offer at that time that support. And then finally, to correct or redirect as necessary. If we see things aren't going right, and in many cases they won't be, how do we correct the situation or redirect the process to put it back on track and get things done in the right way? So again, it's a matter of saying to this individual, I love the effort you're putting in. I really appreciate what you've accomplished so far, but there's some things that need to be fixed here. And if we don't fix it now, it's only going to get worse over time. So you come in, you provide that support, that guidance, that redirection, and you put the process back on track. And if, for whatever the reason, you are not able to do so, then you may need to pull the project back. Hopefully that will not be the outcome. We want every delegation process to succeed. We want to be able to find the right people on staff, empower them, all that good stuff. But we also need to know as leaders that sometimes the person we handpicked for this project may not be up to it, or at least not up to it now. And we just need to pull it back before things go sideways. So that's a determination we need to make. There's no rule of thumb there. It may be as much of a feel or based on certain benchmarks not being met, but at some point you have to say, if we can't get this back on track, I'm going to need to reclaim it. And that's just the ebb and flow of the delegation process. Okay, so now that we have talked about this last planning component, how to empower your people and then ensure their success through monitoring, through guidance, feedback, bringing it back if needed, if need be, to ensure that people are on track and succeeding. We have really covered all of the key bases of the delegation process. To review briefly, we talked about when or what kind of jobs should be delegated and what kind of jobs should not be. We talked about the kind of people we should be delegating to and how to catch them up to speed. We discussed the planning process from the beginning, before delegation begins, all the way through what we hope is an effective outcome. And of course, we try to provide meaningful value all the way through, but there's no question that there is something additional to be said for going deeper, to have all of your questions answered, to have tools and resources at your disposal so that you could really become a transformative leader, change the way you operate, change the way you live, reduce stress, reduce your workload, empower your people, engage them. And so I think that this is really the right time to talk about an offer that I am very excited about. It's a special offer, and I think that it's going to allow everybody who participates to accelerate on a level they've never seen before and really take advantage of the talent all around them so that they can get the right work done. And this offer is a masterclass. It's the Delegate to Accelerate Masterclass, and I invite you to participate. You could take a look at the website that I've created, the page specific for this masterclass. It's impactfulcoaching.com/delegation masterclass. You should be able to link up on it. I will be including it in the notes as well as in the email that I send out and social media. And it's going to include 5 one-hour weekly webinars, so in successive weeks with possibly one break, depending on scheduling. We're going to go deep in key areas relating to the various topics: who, what, where, when, why, how, all those key questions. How do we do it in a way that is going to make you feel good about the process? And some of those questions that we're going to unpack in a subsequent slide. But for now, understand that this is a powerful offering in which we will take what until now these were about 20-minute recordings and probably had about 10, maximum 15 minutes per session on content sharing. Here we're talking about 45 minutes of content sharing with tools and with exercises and with feedback and with conversation. And the back end of that presentation is going to include Q&A. So you can get your questions answered. There's going to be a lot of engagement between sessions as well to ensure that we don't leave any stone unturned to give you the very best. And of course, as you can imagine, in addition to delegation, we're going to touch on many other important leadership-related areas. So I definitely encourage you to join me for that. And let's go now to the next slide where we're going to unpack the offering that much more to see exactly what it is that you're going to be getting. So what does that look like in practical terms? Here are some of the benefits. We've highlighted them in the previous mini lesson. I want to mention them again. Number one, you learn actionable tips to delegate with clarity and confidence. Right? We need to know what we're doing, and the clearer we are, the more confident we are, the better the result is going to be. Number two, the many benefits of delegating. Benefits for us as leaders, benefits for our people. Number three, when leaders should delegate and when they shouldn't. And you might be saying to yourself, well, we already discussed this. And the answer is yes and no. We discussed it, but at the same time, there's a lot more to unpack, a lot more to discuss, many more examples to offer. And having the ability to do it in a more in-depth type of way is going to be transformative. Number four, how to identify the right person for a task and empower them to succeed. The right person makes all the difference. Number five, the right tasks to delegate and the ones to keep for yourself. Not everything should be delegated, as we've been talking about, but which one should and which one shouldn't. We touched on a few. There are many more, and something we want to be able to discuss further. How to effectively plan the process. That was the last presentation. The next one, ways to delegate without coming across as lazy or shifting responsibility. This one we did not discuss at all, but it is something that came up time and again in the survey feedback. The issue of, I want to delegate, but I don't want people to think of me as just trying to punt all of my responsibility to somebody else. So how do we save face as a leader? How do we do it in a way where we feel good about our decisions and don't feel like we're just trying to punt it? Number 8, the proper balance between oversight and micromanagement. We didn't talk about that either, really, in the mini lessons, with the exception a little bit of today, where we talked about oversight, but not really the issue of micromanagement. And that is something that people hate. I was actually just having a conversation a short while ago with a colleague of mine who's in the accounting firm of a real estate development and management company. And that was the issue from his perspective, that he feels micromanaged. So many of our people feel micromanaged. How do we provide oversight without creating an uncomfortable dynamic? Number 9, strategies to monitor projects to ensure proper completion. That was what we talked about earlier. Of course, we'll go deeper. And finally, number 10, when and how to pull projects back when you need to, because inevitably that's going to happen from time to time. How do you help people save face? How do you help yourself save face? And more importantly, how do you draw it back in a way that minimizes hurt feelings and accomplishes positive results in the shortest amount of time? Now, the question is as follows. What would it be worth to you if you could learn cutting edge delegation tips that help you manage your workload? If you could master skills that would allow you to permanently stay ahead of the curve, be able to consistently manage stress levels at work, get home at a decent hour each day, right? We get home so late oftentimes because we just feel like we can't get out of the office. And finally, related, spend more time with friends and loved ones. How much would it be worth to you if you could accomplish all of these things on a regular basis? So I would venture to say that some of you might have responded $1,000. Maybe some of you would have said $2,000. Some of you would have said more. This is super valuable. I need this in the worst way. It'll transform my life, right? A small, for those of us who are in leadership positions, it's a small percentage of our budgets. It's a small percentage of our incomes. Just to be able to have a higher quality of life every single day, both at work and at home, what is the value of that? And yet, I want to offer it to you at a reduced rate because I want everybody to be able to join, or not everybody, but as many people as possible. I want to fill this masterclass, and I want to be able to help as many people as I can to clear their desks, empower their people, reduce stress, and get home at a decent hour. So I have priced this super powerful and value-packed masterclass, which I am launching today as we speak, for only $497. $497 to be able to have tools and strategies that you could have for life that will change the way you lead forever. And you're never going to see such pricing again. And again, I'm doing it because I want to fill this masterclass. I want to make an impact. And I genuinely believe that this can help. And if you were kind enough to complete the survey, you might recall that I shared that there would be a special link. That link should be in your inbox. Please do go look for it and apply the code there's going to be a code in your inbox that you can, when you go to the purchase page for the masterclass, you can apply the code, and that's going to bring the cost down even further. So please go get that code if you have it, as well as just go to the link. I'm going to bring it back before, so what we shared before, so you see it again, impactfulcoaching.com/delegation-masterclass. And again, if you are seeing this, there's a good chance you are already on my email list or you see me on social media. I'm going to be linking it all over the place so that you can find it. Keep in mind, though, that this is a limited time offer, as we will talk about shortly. But before I mention that, you may know that I am the author of Becoming the New Boss, the New Leader's Guide to Sustained Success. In that book, I talk about delegation and all sorts of other goodies as well. And if you didn't think that my offer was attractive enough with the pricing that I set it at, plus the opportunity for the discount code. I'm also offering the first 10 people who register a free inscribed copy of Becoming the New Boss, which is a 5-star rated book on Amazon. And there's tons of value in that book as well. So I encourage you to get moving on it so that you can grab a copy of the book and really learn lots of goodies about leadership, including delegation, productivity, and other things as well. So, one thing I want to warn you and just be mindful of is that this is a limited time offer. I'm going to keep this cart open for 1 week, and that's it. Afterwards, it's going to be a dead link. So be mindful of that. Get in right away. Make sure that you grab a spot and realize that I'm also limiting the number of participants because I want maximal engagement in this masterclass. So there's going to be a limited amount of spaces and a limited amount of time. So get in quickly, reserve your spot, register so that you can delegate to accelerate. Now, here's my final request. I really hope that you would agree with this statement that these 4 mini lessons, even though we didn't go as deep as we could have offered meaningful value. And obviously, I provided that with no charge whatsoever. What I'm simply asking that you do is help me spread the word, please. Obviously, I want to get your feedback. Your energy is what I feed off of. Your comments, your likes, your shares are very valuable to me. And if you know people who you think may be interested in this masterclass, please do let them know about it. Direct them to the website. Let them read all about it, see the videos, get all the content, and determine for themselves if this is something that would be of value to them. So thank you again so much for being part of this journey with me. I hope that the 4 lessons, each in their own way, contributed a meaningful piece to your delegation puzzle. And I really hope that you're going to take the next step with me as well so that we can unpack this like we've never done before, have tools, resources, interaction, peer conversation, questions, and dialogue. It's going to be awesome. Please do join me. I look forward to sharing all of that with you. And hopefully all of us, whether you join me or not, can find ways to delegate and accelerate so that we can all find continued success in our professional and personal lives. Thanks again for listening.